The booktube drama cycle regarding overconsumption has become very predictable. One day, a large creator is posting a very large book haul, and then the next month, they post a very large book unhaul. The comments explode with critiques of this creator's buying habits, the criticism of overconsumption, and then creators get defensive, yet everyone still feels like they're having a productive conversation.
I cannot tell you how many times I've seen creators make these huge book on hauls just for them to release a book haul, a huge book haul, a few videos later.
I don't think we are. I don't think book hauls are a problem. I think your relationship with the creator who is posting a book haul is more likely to be the actual issue here. Today I want to talk about why I think the book haul should be a net positive for the community, why oftentimes they are not, and how we can change our relationships with each other and with books to make them positive again. What is a book haul? If you clicked on this video and don't know what a book haul is, I'm not sure how you got here, but welcome. I'm glad you're here. A book haul video is a video in which a creator posts about a bunch of books they recently acquired. They talk about each book, even though most of the time they haven't read any of the books yet. They're just ones that have been sent to them or that they've purchased that they're showing off to everyone who follows their channel and watches their videos. Most of the time, there's like a little mini description of each book, basically the equivalent of what you could get from the dust jacket, and it's usually pretty rapid fire. Now, there are different types of book hauls. One type of book haul would be a huge book haul from a mid-sized to large creator. Sometimes these book hauls can get very large. I've seen many where it's like 50 books in a video, for example. A second type of book haul would be an attempt at a large book haul from an aspiring creator, someone like me who doesn't have a huge influence yet, but they try to compete with sort of the quantity of these large book hauls. That's definitely something that happens. And then the third type of book haul would be like the smaller, more intimate book haul that might not go as viral because there's not as many books involved, but the creator can still give the people that watch them a sense of what type of books they enjoy and just share their shopping experience and their experience finding books with other people. That's sort of a third type of book haul. This video is going to focus on the first type, the book haul that is large and is from a large content creator, but I will touch on all three types a little bit. To get started, we need to talk about parasocial relationships. What are parasocial relationships? A parasocial relationship is when you feel sort of a one-sided connection to someone who doesn't know you exist. In this case, large content creators. Now, I will say YouTube is kind of nice in that we have the comment section. Some of my favorite interactions on YouTube so far has been because of the comment section. There are dozens of people who watch me to where when they post something on my channel, I remember who they are from video to video. That is a huge part of community building that we can do on YouTube. That is very positive. And if I didn't think that me posting content on the internet was at least neutral, if not a little bit net positive, I wouldn't do it. I don't want to harm people's lives by any means. But I think the relationships we have within a community on a YouTube channel are the strongest when we understand that this is an online connection where we are having conversations about certain topics and it doesn't really go further than that. However, it's very common to start to see very large creators with a very large following, so not me, as someone who is just like any other person. We start to view a content creator with hundreds of thousands of subscribers with a 60-book book haul as our friend down the street who happens to be a reader who's showing off recent purchases, and not as a full-time content creator who does what they do as a job featuring products within their industry. And I understand why we do that, because we want to have that personal feel. It's a hobby, it's a fun thing. It's not something that's supposed to feel like a business. I mean, we saw recently that Audra Winter was under fire for trying to make being an author like a full-on business where you think of it in business terms and you kind of get rid of the community feel. That's obviously an issue. So creators who are full-time creators that do this for a job are going to come off as casual. They're going to come off as your friend because, I mean, we're talking about a hobby ultimately. And even though reading is a very positive thing, it's still something that people want to have sort of a casual feel with because it's something that they do for fun. And I don't think people are actively thinking, oh, this huge creator is just like any reader reading in their free time. But I do think that there's sort of a feeling to where you start associating someone with hundreds of thousands of followers who does it full time as a normal person, because to some extent they are a normal person. But when you get that too ingrained in your brain, you start to think, oh, if they're normal and they're a regular person and these are their spending habits and this is how many books they're bringing in, then that is normal. The business side of book content. Large and mid-sized creators do receive a lot of free books, and the books they choose to buy are business expenses that in many cases can be tax deductible. It's even possible for them to receive 50 books in a month that are from authors and publishers, even popular new releases. Many creators do mention that they receive a lot of things for free, as they should. The discussion we should be having here is how upfront are creators being with their audiences. If it's unclear to the audience how the creator affords a certain lifestyle, that's a problem. If it normalizes the idea that you should also be able to buy 50 books, that is a problem. A creator who has a sort of business promoting books having 50 books is not strange. Making it seem like it's normal and other people should do that too is what's the problem, in my opinion. We'll get more into that. And I will say it's unrealistic from a financial and from a free time perspective for the average person with a full-time job that is not reviewing books to actually replicate the behavior of someone who is. Why book hauls should be a net positive. Let me make the case for why book hauls should be positive for basically everyone involved. Most books sell poorly. The average book sells fewer than 3,000 copies in its lifetime. Publishers and authors are always constantly struggling to get the right book to the right audience. They have a really hard time reaching the people that a book would actually resonate with. When a booktuber who has the ability and financial backing to be able to do a large book haul does one, it has the possibility of really impacting an author's life. Oftentimes, large book hauls are going to feature some books that are either mid-list books that have some copies sold or completely self-published small books that have barely any traction. A lot of people will make the point that a lot of big booktubers all read the same books, and I think that there's some level of truth to this. There's definitely some sort of incentive to make sure that you're reading the books that the majority of people are reading if you want to reach a wider audience. I don't negate that. However, when I have watched book hauls, I have generally seen really popular new releases and famous books alongside books that I personally have never heard of, and I've heard of a lot of books. When a book that might be a lesser known book is featured and the booktuber gives a quick pitch for it that is resonating with some viewers and people are actually interested in the idea, that can change the trajectory of an author's career. And that might be a little bit of a dramatic claim, but at the very least, it can help authors sell more copies of their books than they would have otherwise. And the thing is, these books that are featured, especially the less popular ones, if you are of the opinion that popular booktubers like to read popular books, well, if they're featuring some of these less popular books, there is a chance that they might not actually ever read the book. It might not ever show up in a reading vlog. It might not ever show up in a review or anywhere else on their channel. It might only show up in the book haul video because not everyone has the time to read everything, but a large booktuber can show a group of people 50 books, even if they only ever have time to read half of them. And I know a lot of people are a little pessimistic with large influencers in general, including large booktubers, and they might say, Allison, sure, but it's not like the booktuber is trying to help out small authors. I don't know if I exactly agree with that opinion. I think that someone can be motivated by multiple things. I think it's totally possible for a large booktuber to be motivated by views and money, but also want to help out small authors. I don't think those have to be mutually exclusive motivations. But even if we have this cartoonish, evil, big influencer booktuber, showing a book and they don't mean to help the author. If it does help the author, I don't really care what the motivation was. I will say though, a pet peeve of mine is when a large booktuber picks up a book and goes, I don't really know what this is about, and then proceeds to go on to the next one. I have seen that a few times, and I understand that the way that some book hauls are portrayed are less than ideal, but I still think the idea of a book haul could be beneficial for everyone involved. So in an ideal world, the book haul is positive for the creator because any videos with tons of books on the thumbnail seem to get lots of views. It's positive for the authors that are featured, and it can be positive for the viewer when they want to find a new book and they get a bunch of books pitched to them at once. As a side note, I've heard the critique of the haul unhaul cycle with these big booktubers. I don't know if I really fully agree with that critique, because if you are doing it as a business and it's no longer just you personally reading and you have 100,000 plus subscribers and you're constantly featuring books as your job, it seems like it would be a normal cycle to be sent lots of books and then not be able to read them all and then unhaul the ones that you can't fit in your house. That just seems to be the natural progression of what the job is to me, so I don't really care about that. I will get into a little bit of a nuance with that in a second, though. Everyday readers and aspiring creators. Let's be honest, real harm has come out of book overconsumption with some group of people. I don't know how large that group is. I think we oftentimes overestimate it by being very online. But I have seen many people go on book buying bans where they have basically overwhelmed themselves with way too many books in their house, and they have to ban themselves from continuing to be in the cycle of watching reviews and buying tons of books. I cannot deny that that's happening, because that is absolutely happening. Some of this is just from the general dopamine hits that you tend to get when you shop a lot, but some of this is definitely influenced from people online. And there is some responsibility on creators when they overhype everything they ever show to their audience. It gives their audience that trusts them a sense of urgency with every single book that is held up, and makes them think that if they don't get to everything, they are missing out. Think of the psychological pressure that you might feel, especially if you are young and you see someone online that you have come to really like urgently recommend 15 books in a row. You might start to view that list of 15 recommendations as a list of reading. You should be reading all of those books, and you should get through everything that has been recommended to you and miss out on nothing. Your brain processes it as important even when it's just a content creator doing their job. This is potentially problematic for every reader or everyone who gets deeply entrenched in the hobby. An average person is not going to have an issue with this, but someone who really starts to identify as being a reader is going to maybe have some influence from this type of content. I think one group that is especially vulnerable is the aspiring content creator. There are lots of people who want to have large Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube book accounts that try to mimic the behaviors of much larger creators. I'm definitely in the group of content creators that does not have a very large following, so nothing against them by any means, but I do think there is a common approach that people start taking that can become problematic because of the culture of the book haul. In this case, an aspiring creator, someone with a very small to no following, will see a book haul video, maybe on YouTube, get tons of views from a very big creator, and they'll think the formula to success is to copy the creator but make a video with their own personality. So this person might go to the store and buy 20 popular new releases that add up and are quite expensive because they're trying to make a book haul video of their own. So they do it, they post their video, the video gets 200 views, which is really good for a new content creator on YouTube, but it's not what they were expecting. So they get to the cycle to where they think to get the attention they're seeking, they're going to make a bigger book haul next time. These smaller creators that fall into this to where it's financially irresponsible. We'll talk about other book hauls in a second, but I'm talking about the financially irresponsible book hauls for the sake of looking like a legit reader online, which definitely happens, at least to some extent. Not everyone falls into it. But for these creators, they are playing a game that they don't quite understand. They think that it's about volume to get clicks, whereas channels that have momentum over a long time are actually built on trust and other types of things. If you look at a lot of the big content creators who post book hauls, their community is usually built through something else. A lot of them that do book hauls tends to be reading vlogs or like reading experiments or reading projects where they get their audience really engaged in what they're doing, and then they also do book hauls. Trying to compete with larger creators just by buying the largest amount of books is like trying to take a shortcut that doesn't exactly work. I mean, I could go to Barnes & Noble today, and I probably wouldn't even be financially ruined if I went and grabbed 20 or 30 books and then tomorrow posted a huge giant book haul. But even if that video with a good thumbnail got tons of clicks, I would be absolutely terrified because I would understand that a huge portion of my audience was now there just because I did a massive book haul with tons of books and not for me and what I want to do on my channel. And to keep that audience engaged, you're going to have to keep doing that sort of thing, and you've kind of put yourself in a cycle that's unsustainable if you're trying to build your channel in a way where you're skipping some of the hard part by just having what stands out to people right away. And I know that comes across as pretty mean, and it's not bad if you want to build a channel like that and if you have the financial stability to do it. I am more talking to someone who maybe is making a little bit of a financially bad decision in order to join an online community. You just don't need to do that. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention TikTok for a second with these readers who want to become creators. TikTok is a highly visual platform and the videos are really short. So on this platform, it's almost a little bit worse to where people feel like they need to have a giant stack of books just to join the conversation. I don't do TikTok for this reason, but I just want to warn them that if they're actually thinking about having it like at least financially even out to where they're not out a ton of money to post on the internet, TikTok does not pay creators very well. In fact, a video that I post that ends up getting 10,000 views, which I've had some come close and I've had one get almost 40,000 views at this point. So I'm just saying on YouTube, if you get 10,000 views, it's about the same as getting 150,000 to 200,000 views on TikTok as far as AdSense, assuming that both creators are in an AdSense program for both platforms, which has a barrier of entry in itself. So if you plan on doing this on TikTok and you want the finances to even out or come close or not put yourself in debt, just know that this approach only works for a small minority of people, and I wouldn't want you to put yourself in that situation. Now, book hauls could be very positive for a small channel, but I would recommend doing something like a thrift store book haul or a smaller book haul with 5 or 6 books that you have chosen for yourself to read over the next month that are things that you're legitimately interested in. This shows curation. It shows people the type of books you like to read, and it does help you build your community because you are connecting over a shared love for maybe a similar genre or a similar type of book. To be fair, book hauls with 5 or 6 books or from thrift stores generally don't get as many views, but the community you build from doing that type of book haul is a lot more stable, and you still have the ability to feature certain authors that you love that might not get enough attention without having to compete in quantity with a large channel that is treating it like a business. The lost art of self-control. When I first started watching booktube, I added way too many books to my Goodreads TBR. I bought way too many books. I had so many books that I probably was never going to read, and maybe even some books that I didn't even particularly want to read. I did have a booktube channel before this, and I did kind of fall into that trap of thinking I had to have a lot of books in order to look like a real reader. Recently, I've shifted my way of thinking. I don't really operate in feast or famine mode, which I see a lot of people sort of entering when they fall into the cycle. I don't buy 20 books one month and then feel bad and then buy 0. My own system is sort of, I'll share it. I just have like this cart over here to the side that you see in my videos. And once I fill it up, I can't buy more books. And because I sort of understand that I've given myself somewhat of a limit, it usually ends up being 30 or 35 unread books at any time, which works for me really well. I never really approach the extreme limit of it. I'm never really packing it really, really tight because I kind of know that that's what I'm going for, and it kind of makes me prioritize which books I want to actually buy, and it makes me be a little bit more discerning in what books I actually want to read. So whereas before I would watch a large book haul from a large creator and think that I needed to read almost every single book on the list, now I will watch a book haul like that and think I want to find the 1 or 2 books that I would really enjoy that I might not have heard of otherwise. And if we act like we need to get rid of book hauls because people have no self-control, I think that we're insulting people's intelligence. Once I understood that I was watching someone that appeared casual online but was actually running a business, I started understanding that I didn't need to completely copy what they were doing, and I came up with a system that worked for me. If you have had a feeling of being overwhelmed, if you have bought more books than you actually like having in your house, and that's a personal preference, but if that's happened, that's okay. You just need to figure out what is a healthy balance for you. Sometimes that might be watching fewer of those videos if you feel like you already have too many books to read, but sometimes that is just watching those videos with a little bit more of a critical view. You don't have to read everything that's been mentioned. Now, let me add a short little caveat. I think most people can probably find a solution like I did through just knowledge of the situation and being a little bit more picky in what they read, but some people literally do have like shopping addictions and compulsions that are hard to control just by themselves. In minor cases, maybe they just need an accountability partner like a family member or a friend. In cases that are really hard to control, they might need professional help. But just because people exist who need help to not compulsively spend doesn't mean that we need to get rid of the book haul entirely. Maybe some people shouldn't watch them, but they're still, I think, ideally a net positive for the community. The overconsumption argument. I guess I want to take a short detour before ending this video and just talk about the overconsumption argument in general in the book space online. I've seen a lot of people critique people for buying too many books, and of course I've already kind of given my argument for people who treat this as a business and not as a personal hobby, which I think applies. I think that argument could basically apply to anyone presenting anything online, and I don't necessarily mean to do that to the same extent for everyone, because I honestly think people who are promoting books on the internet are way more justified than most other people promoting products. Let me unpack that a little bit. First, as I have mentioned on this channel before, books have a very limited environmental impact if you're looking at it through that lens. Recycling a book is way easier. Just think about it for a moment. A book has a pretty uniform composition. It is mostly paper. Now, there's definitely some books that might be starting to add in more synthetic materials, and that could be an issue at a large scale. We're not really seeing at a large scale because there's not that many people buying books, to be honest. But the majority of books can be recycled fairly easily, in contrast with something like fast fashion that people always criticize for its environmental impact. A fast fashion brand is going to make a piece of clothing with a bunch of synthetic blends that are really hard to recycle and basically never degrade. That's just not the situation with the book. Books are, as far as consumer goods go, one of the easiest ones to recycle. But since so many people try to put books into other elements of overconsumption and equate it with lots of different things, I just want to do a comparison real quick. Imagine someone who is doing a 40-book book haul, and imagine someone who is doing a haul of 40 designer water bottles. I don't know what the popular one is right now, Stanley, Owala. I have this one, which is actually pretty nice, but I only have one. And they're showing you 40 different water bottles, maybe of the popular brands, of different colors, with different designs, maybe even different ways of holding the cup. When it comes down to it, you only really need one water bottle that you like. You do not need multiple water bottles. But when it comes to books, you're going to read a book in a day, a week, or a month, depending on who you are. And then you need another book. You can't just buy one book and be done as a reader. You're going to want another book eventually. So comparing showing people tons of books to some other product that you don't need tons of is just not a very good comparison in my mind. Also, the average American household buys 14 books a year. This includes books you read to babies, books that children have to learn how to read, books on business, books on education. So when it comes down to it, people are not really reading that much. So any sort of person that is getting online and trying to make reading sound fun and giving lots of options is actively sort of going against the general culture of not reading at all, and I think that's a positive thing. We never critique libraries for over-consuming books because we understand that the purpose of the library is to get books to the general public. In a similar vein, I don't really criticize large booktubers for doing large book hauls because they have sort of the purpose of letting people know that these books exist and let them know that they can support the authors by buying a particular book. I'm not by any means saying that an individual large content creator is as important as the library or as the library system. Do not get me wrong. This comparison is more in purpose, not in weight. These creators still have a responsibility to their audience. There's a good way to do a book haul that helps everyone involved, and there's a more selfish, shallow way to do a book haul where you hold up a book and say, I don't know what the hell this is. I get annoyed by that, like I said. And you do need to be upfront with people that your lifestyle is not the same as everyone else's, and they should not be replicating it. I do think there's a little bit of creator responsibility, but there's also responsibility as a viewer to view what you are actually viewing accurately, not to try to replicate patterns of behaviors that are not financially responsible for you, and to make sure that you are taking in the piece of content in a way that is good for your life and actually helpful. Oftentimes that means being pickier. That means choosing what books actually resonate with you. And that means not just throwing every book on a TBR because other people are reading them. You yourself can choose to place limits on yourself. And I think that is the best way to consume that type of booktube content. Thank you for watching.